Well, fancy seeing you here, and yes, we do mean you. This is DraftKings is the Sweat. Jessie Coffield, good morning.
It's me.
I'm Emerson Lotiza, hello. We'll take a DFS and sports betting look at tonight's National League wild card game between the Cardinals and the Dodgers. We have NBA preseason salaries to gossip about. We're going to chase and fade on the links with Lenny, and a boatload of NFL stuff.
Speaking of NFL stuff, how about winning $1 million? Because week 5 is here, and that means the latest millionaire contest is live right now in the DraftKings lobby. Draft your lineup and take a shot at the $4 million prize pool and the $1 million top prize. And just like every other week, the winner will secure their entry into the DraftKings Tournament of Champions live final in January for another shot at $1 million top prize. So go check out this contest in the DK lobby right now.
All right, well, first let's check out our NFL panel. They're going to help you with that Millie Maker. DraftKings contributors Pierce Dietrich, Reed Fowler, Julian Edlow in studio, over, under, coming at you. So Thursday Night Football tomorrow night, boys. Rams, Seahawks. Matt Stafford has gone over 300 passing yards twice this year, and the Seahawks defense ranks 28th against the pass. Is Stafford going over or under his 300.5 passing yards prop, Reed?
I'm going to say over. I know this is a lot. This is a high mark, but for Stafford in this offense, you see that he can do it by passing 26 times. He passed 38 against Tampa Bay when he did it the second time where he went over 300 yards. And you look at Seattle's defense. You mentioned Emerson. They play a lot of cover 3, and that's not really working, right? So they're 28th in pass defense. What scares me a little bit, guys, about this, though, is that Seattle's run defense also not great. They've given up a lot of yards on the ground. So maybe you look at what the Rams did against Arizona, not necessarily working up to snuff. Seattle's going to look at that tape and maybe deploy the same type of strategy. And so maybe they run it a little bit more with Darrell Henderson. But again, Stafford and these guys are too good. Picking the under here is going to be tough to bet on Thursday night.
Yeah, it's a good point, Reed. Seahawks allowing 152 yards per game on the ground. That's the NFL's worst rush defense. Jules, how do you feel about Stafford's passing prop here, yardage?
Well, the Seahawks have a bad defense just overall in all aspects. And the numbers didn't necessarily show that against the 49ers. They got killed from a yardage standpoint. They just won on the final scoreboard, and San Francisco had to overcome a QB change to a young rookie quarterback in game. So I don't think the numbers really tell the story there. I like the over here. It's really going to be overs or passes in basically anything involving the Rams offense in this game. But I think Stafford has a good game. I think he gets the yards. I think the Rams put up some points and win this game. And when you have a bounce back week needed off that frustrating home loss to the Cardinals and kind of a letdown spot after the Bucs win, I think that this offense is going to be clicking. Ball's going to go to Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Deshaun Jackson probably gets a deep ball. I think this one finds its way over. I think the team total finds its way over. Plenty of overs from the Rams here, even on the road on a short week.
Pierce, we got a clean sweep here of over 300.5 passing yards.
Yeah, let's go with the clean sweep here. Seattle's pass defense not very good. And speaking to Reed's point about the concern, and even Julian mentioned this as well, of a possible rush attack, taking some of those yards away. Well, Ryan Tannehill's got a pretty good running back behind him, and he still managed to throw for 350 against Seattle. Cousins, they've got a good running attack, and he still threw for 330. The only time that Seattle held a team under 300 passing yards was against Carson Wentz, who didn't even play in the preseason, and until the day of, we weren't even sure he was going to play in that game, and he still managed 250 yards against his team. 300 or 299 is a pretty high number. Stafford's gone over this twice, but I think the yardage is going to be there.
Okay, so the last remaining undefeated team is the Cardinals. They're averaging over 34 points, so can they go over their 27.5 team total versus San Francisco, Jules?
Yeah, kind of similar to the Rams spot. I'm not really taking unders on the Cardinals right now, so this is an over or a pass. The Cardinals are gonna put up points. I think they're gonna kind of keep rolling here. We'll see what the deal with Jimmy Garoppolo is. Kind of soft by him ruling himself out, and then they're like, oh well, maybe he will play. We'll see who the quarterback is for San Francisco. My concern is that maybe if it is Trey Lance getting his first start, that Arizona's offense doesn't necessarily need to do as much to keep up. They don't need to get to 28 maybe. So maybe they get 21, 24, 27 and can kind of grind the clock out at the end. So I have a little bit of a concern here with some red flags. Eventually, Arizona is going to slow down a little bit offensively, but there's no way you're taking the under here. It's an over or pass situation.
All right, Pierce, no way you're taking the under?
Yeah, you got to take the over. Seattle can get to 28, and Arizona with probably a much better offense can get there as well. If you look at the stats, Arizona is one of the slower paced teams in football, which is strange. It seems like an error, but if you look closely, in the first half of games, they are the third fastest. In the second half of game, they're 30th in pace because they're always up by so many points. They slow down, and they're not pushing it as much as they could be. This team's putting up 30 points in games where they don't really have to keep pushing. If San Francisco can hang in there in this game, and I think they can, then we might see a full effort, a complete full force, full pace game from the Cardinals, and they should easily go over this number.
Reed T, 3 for 3 going over?
Yeah, I mean, San Francisco's team total too is at 21.5. That's enticing to if we're bullish, right, on Arizona going over, then that's something too that you could do. But that's a little bit tough, like June was mentioning. How is Trey Lance going to play in this game, right? You look at Kyler Murray; he's 5th in danger passes, or excuse me, only 5 danger passes, which is 25th, I believe, ranked in the NFL. So he's not throwing these YOLO balls like he used to, where the defense on the other side can get a change of possession and an easier or shorter field to score. So I agree with these guys. Over.
Pierce, Texans shut out last week against the Bills. Their team total against the Patriots right now, 14.5. So are the Texans going to put up over 14.5 points on a defense that just held Tom Brady to 19?
Over. This number is just too low for a professional football team. And first of all, Mac Jones, are we back to saying that he's good again? I mean, we keep going, oh, he's good, he's bad, he's good, he's bad. He's a rookie quarterback. He can throw a pick six. And even if he doesn't throw a pick six, there's going to be chances where, Texans are working with a smaller field. Also, you look at who the Texans have played, Cleveland, Carolina, Buffalo. It makes sense that they're not scoring a lot of points. And then the final point here is New England was up for that game. There was a lot of motivation. This is a classic letdown spot for New England, and I'll be interested to see Julian's split tweet later this week to see if the sharp money is behind the Texans.
Jules, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Pierce. The whole world is generally excited to see when I tweet out the splits. You are one of many, and you are also right that this is a letdown game for the Patriots. Now, what exactly does that mean for the Texans? The Texans are going to have success defensively, I think, in this game. Everybody's kind of high on Mac Jones right now, but some offensive linemen both go onto the COVID list this week for the Patriots. Mm-hmm. They're probably going to struggle a little bit more offensively on the road after a big primetime game that they absolutely got up for. So what does that mean for the Texans' ability to score? The Patriots' defense looked very well prepared for that game against the Bucs. They balled out on Sunday Night Football. So they can definitely do that again in Houston against a pretty poor team. But 14 points is not many for a home team in the NFL. Like Pierce said, this is a professional football team. They're going to put some points on the board. It's a really good number. I have to lean over just because it's so low. But this is going to be a grinder of a football game. The Patriots are absolutely going to come back to life. They need to win this game.
Reed, any reason to back the Texans over team total here?
Well, I mean, I guess to just be the anti-over here is like this. Yes, this is a low number, but you're talking about a team that has averaged 150 total yards over the last 2 games. That's not great, but there's a caveat to that, right? I mean, they've played some pretty good defenses and some pretty good teams so far this season. Cleveland, Carolina, and Buffalo. Right, those are good teams. Those are really, really good teams, and their defenses. Maybe Carolina's is a little suspect after what happened last week, but Cleveland and Buffalo, their defenses are strong. So yes, like it is low. I tend to think that Brandon Cooks is going to be taken out of this game just because we know that that's what Bill Belichick does. He's familiar with a guy like Brandon Cooks. So who does that leave, guys? Who does that like Phillip Lindsay, Mark Ingram, both of the tight ends, and I don't even know who the second wide receiver is on Houston that could do anything to put up these points. So I'm a little worried about that. But yes, this is a low number, so I'm going to go over.
All right, looking ahead to Sunday night, highest game total on the slate, Bills-Chiefs. Is it going over 56.5, Reed? Are we going to see the shootout?
Yeah, I suspect that. Look, and this is really about the Chiefs' defense, right? Like we've seen Buffalo's defense put up some shutouts over the last couple of weeks, but this Chiefs defense is not good. we talk about bad defenses historically, and especially with the over. And if you look at the Bills, their over statistics over the last handful of games are fantastic. And over the last 5 games, they've been solid hitting the over, right? And the Chiefs, when you take a look at, like I mentioned, their defense, it's just not, they're not getting any pressure on the quarterback. Their secondary is slow, and their linebackers are all banged up. So yeah, give me the over.
The total is at the under in 4 of Buffalo's last 6 games, Julian.
Yeah, it's tempting. I don't want to be the guy that goes all overs on this show. I promise. I actually prefer, as a general negative troll, I prefer betting unders. But I can't do it in this game because Kansas City's defense, like Reed said, not good. So I know that the Bills, Josh Allen and the Bills, are going to put up points in this game. That means Patrick Mahomes has to keep up. Now, there are 3 good units in this game. The Bills offense, the Chiefs offense, and the Bills defense. There's 1 bad unit. That's the Chiefs defense. So the Bills can maybe make a statement defensively if they get a big, double-digit win and limit Kansas City's offense here. But I'll take Mahomes to keep up at home. I like the Bills +3 in this game. I think the Bills are going to win this game, but it's going to be by outscoring the Chiefs and making a stop defensively at some point. These offenses are going to go back and forth, I think.
Pierce, what's up? You joining the overs club?
I will not. I'm going to take the under.
Go.
Buffalo will do their part, but Kansas City is not going to. To illustrate how good this Bills defense has been, I'll tell you every touchdown they've allowed this season. Pittsburgh, a short field aided by a pass interference. That was 1. They gave up a 73-yard touchdown to Gibson. The subsequent kickoff was fumbled for another short field touchdown. And then the 4th touchdown they allowed this season was a garbage TD at the end of the game to Washington. 4 touchdowns. You need 4 touchdowns from Kansas City in 1 game. They're not going to get there.
Dudes, thank you for doing what you just did. We will see what's cooking on, yeah, that's right, Jules. Giggle it up over there.
Oh, no.
We'll see what's cooking on DraftKings and DK Sportsbook for tonight's NL wildcard game. I was at the AL wildcard game with Jules last night.
Yeah, baby.
Friends. Yeah,
Thanks for the invite.
No, forget this.
Sox
Dude.
underdog, first 5, money line, cash them all.
Stop. But first, let's hear from our very own wild card himself, Pat Mayo, and get his thoughts on the high-priced players in this week's Shriners Children's Open.
You said it right.
This was an actual cut event. We got 156 players in the field. It's at TPC Summerlin in Vegas. I guess guys just want to get to Vegas early because I think CJ Cup is next week. That's par 71, 7,255 yards. There's a par 4 that you can drive. Eagles are made on this course. Smiley Kaufman won this tournament back in the day, so it's a lot of fun. It's been a nice breakthrough spot for a lot of young players or like super old players who were once good. I think, was it Super Nintendo Chalmers who won here? I think it was. No, it was Rod Pampling, won in 2016. Obviously, Party Marty Laird outdueled my guy, Matthew Wolf, who I had a big bet on in a playoff last year. So he won. And then Na won the year before that. He was a UNLV guy. But then you have like Bryson, Cantlay, Smiley Kaufman, like young guys who we think are going to be good. This ends up being their breakout tournament.
Yeah. And this is a tournament. We've seen this course a bunch. Different type of field, you get some of those guys, these newcomers with a lot of talent, or guys looking who are on the cusp. So I like that. I mean, I think there's going to be some names this week that fit that criteria of guys that are on the cusp that we know are going to win. Maybe this is their breakthrough.
There are 6 players above $10,000 this week on DraftKings. Brooks Koepka is the most expensive, the only one above $11,000 at 11-1. Sam Burns, 10-9 in this field. Fun times. He opened it 18-1 in some places, 25-1 on DraftKings Sportsbook. But I looked at that. I was like, man, he's the same odds as last week against 20 times a better field. That's kind of crazy. Although his tee to green was outstanding a week ago. Hovland, Answer, Webb Simpson, and Will Zalatoris, who was 22-1 at $10,100. I feel like you could skip this range if you wanted to. I'm not saying that you need to or I'm going to, but there's, in my mind, better players in the 9s than a lot of these guys.
I mean, you could certainly make that case. Usti, Scheffler, Decky types, Harris English, a lot of guys there. I mean, I'm not just going to omit this range. I don't like Burns per se. Answer, definitely interesting. I kind of like his game for this course. Just super solid. He already had a breakthrough at a TPC, at the St. Jude and whatnot. I think that's a pretty interesting, fair price for him. Hovland's the guy I don't know what to do with. I'd like to play him, but I also don't know exactly where his popularity is going to be and kind of where he is in the criteria.
Yeah, it's probably too early in the week to try to gauge any sort of ownership projection in that sense. But coming off Ryder Cup and he wasn't all that good, now he's pretty expensive. I doubt anyone plays Sam Burns, by the way. He might actually be the play this week because you know how finicky people are about not Brooks coming off a win kind of thing. Like, it's like, oh, he kind of shot his wad. That's the end of him. Now he's he's as expensive as he was a week ago. It's just there are way better players around him that maybe you just try to ride a heater with Sam Burns and keep it going. Although not on Bermuda grass this week. It's on bent grass. So both of Sam Burns' wins have come on Bermuda if you're keeping track of it at home.
Welcome back to the Sweat. Say hello to our baseball panel. DraftKings contributors Gary Thorne and Matt Meiselman. They are here for the Wild Card Showdown segment. Cardinals at Dodgers. We are so excited. Need your favorite DFS plays and best bets for tonight's NL Wild Card game.
So let's start at the top. Let's start with your captain. 1.5 times the salary, the price, but you're going to get 1.5 times the points. Gare Bear, what do you think?
Yeah, this is a tough spot. I personally think this is going to be a really low-scoring game that would lead you to want to use one of the two pitchers in the captain spot. Obviously, Max Scherzer has a lot more strikeout upside than Adam Wainwright. The matchup is a little bit easier for Max Scherzer, but it's going to cost a lot of money to captain Max Scherzer. A lot of people are going to captain Max Scherzer. So, look, I'm not above it. I'll probably have several lineups where Max Scherzer is captained. You look at what he's been able to do all season long as a member of the Dodgers, what he's been able to do specifically against this Cardinals lineup. He's thrown 14 scoreless innings against the Cardinals in 2021. His last start against St. Louis, which was exactly 1 month ago today. His FIP in that game was negative 0.08 because he had 13 strikeouts across 8 scoreless innings. So Scherzer is obviously viable in the captain spot, but I will say this is one of those rare showdown slates where I really want to see a lineup come out. I mean, generally speaking, we know what the Cardinals' batting order is going to look like today. With Max Muncy not playing, Dave Roberts essentially listed off half the roster when talking about who could play first base tonight for the Dodgers. If it turns out someone like Matt Beatty is playing first base and possibly hitting 6th or even 7th in this lineup, I think he has to be someone you seriously consider for the captain spot as well, especially if you're buying into the narrative that I am, that this is going to be a low-scoring game. Because if you want to put both of these pitchers into the same lineup, you are going to need to save some serious money at that captain spot. So I think there's a lot of ways to go here. Scherzer, obviously the best play, but will also be the most popular.
Yeah, and Matt, let's not forget here, after that amazing win streak by the Cardinals ended, they did kind of fall back down to earth, dropping 3 of their last 5.
Yeah, that was inevitable, I think. Like, I'm not buying the Cardinals as that good of a team. For this game, I feel like Gary and I are on the same page for part of the analysis and then pretty divergent for the other part. So I do think Max Scherzer easily has the highest upside of any player. I think he should have a lot of strikeouts, but I do think runs could be somewhat high here. I don't really buy Wainwright as an elite starting pitcher. His ERA has been ahead of his peripherals for 2 seasons now. He's probably good, but not great. And Scherzer struggled pretty badly in his last 2 starts. I don't know how much to read into that. But what we do know about Max Scherzer is he has plenty of games where he gets a lot of strikeouts and also gives up some home runs. He's not a guy who really generates any ground balls. The Cardinals have some power, so for the captain spot, I think the ultimate deciding factor is that if 50% of the lineups have Scherzer up there, I just don't think you can do it. That doesn't mean you fade him outright, but I think you do need to go to a hitter instead. And there are a few captains who I think no one's going to play. And to me, the guy that stands out the most is Tyler O'Neill. He's the guy in the Cardinals lineup who has by far the most power. Scherzer is vulnerable to the home run. I certainly think O'Neill could go 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts against him, but I also think a 2 home run game is well within possibility also. And because, like, I'd be surprised if even 1% of the lineups in the field have him at captain. And he could be the hitter in this game with the most power across the board because, like Arian said, Max Muncy is out. So this might be the best home run hitter on either team for tonight. And I just think no one's playing him because he's got Scherzer on the other side and he's expensive. So I think that's my pick as the super contrarian off the board guy.
All right, let's talk about value here, Matt. It can be tough to find value on these slates. So where are you looking for it?
So it's going to depend on this lineup. I'm on the same page there. Like if Matt Beatty or Albert Pujols, Gavin Lux, like all these guys are really cheap. If Chris Taylor gets the start and let's say the Dodgers move Cody Bellinger to first base, which I do think is a possibility, if that happens, it's going to be even harder. And then we're going to see a lot of people playing Yadier Molina, which I think is just a really bad idea if he's 60% owned or something. Like he's not a good enough hitter to be the chalk. So the real value to me where you're getting underpriced players who aren't overly popular comes from the mid-tier. And I think Justin Turner at 7,600, AJ Pollock 7,400, Will Smith 7,800, any of those guys, because it's not that they'll be contrarian or anything, but they won't be as popular as the lower tier pricing where you have guys like Lux and Molina and Bellinger who are 5 or 6K. Those guys will be more popular. And then I think you can kind of get a better balance from that mid tier of the Dodgers. So really my answer is any of those three guys. I think Turner, Smith, and Pollock are all good choices.
Gary, what are we thinking for value here?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to issue the same warning about Yadier Molina, who is $4,600. He's just going to make a lot of pieces fit. And while that's great, when you look at Molina, I mean, first and foremost, in 2021, he has been so much better against left-handed pitching than he's been against right-handed pitching. He's got a 74 WRC plus against righties, a 128 WRC plus against lefties. So not only is he going up against one of the best right-handed pitchers in baseball, him just going up against a right-handed pitcher in general seems like it's been a bad idea. Throughout the season, if you're someone who believes in BVP, he is 1 for 20 in his career against Max Scherzer, which, look, that makes a lot of sense. Max Scherzer's really good. So, I don't know. Molina doesn't seem to check many boxes for me. Obviously, I mentioned Matt Beatty already. If he is in this lineup, I really do like him. Since the beginning of August, just 41 plate appearances, but he's got a 996 OPS. He seems to fall into that category that someone like Edwin Rios fell into last season. Just really good, probably too good to be the 26th man on the Dodgers, but you play for the Dodgers, so you only get a couple plate appearances. Matt Beatty will go somewhere else sometime soon and probably be a full-time player who's a reasonably good to above average hitter. So I like him a lot. And the fact that he's left-handed, I think is really important. The big absence with Max Muncy, aside from just that Max Muncy is probably the Dodgers' best hitter, is that Adam Wainwright has specifically been very good against right-handed batters if you go back to the beginning of June. In that 22 start span, he's held opponent right-handed bats to just a 225 WOBA. That's microscopic. And now, suddenly, because Cody Bellinger is a shell of his former self, the only reliable left-handed bat in this Dodgers lineup is Corey Seager. So I really do think Beatty, possibly even like Billy McKinney, if he's the guy who ends up getting chosen here. I hope he's not, but he might be. Any left-handed bat who you can find for less than $5,000 in this Dodgers lineup would be worthy of being a value play.
Let's poke over now to the DK Sportsbook, Gary. So give me your favorite bet. Like we're talking money line, run line, game total, game prop. Go wherever you want to go here.
So I mentioned I think this is going to be a pretty low-scoring game. I will say there are some concerns in each one of these bullpens. The Dodgers have kind of been struggling to find middle relief guys all season long. Kenley Jansen, I think we've been asking questions about him in the playoffs the past half decade. There's also some walk concerns when you get to the back of St. Louis's bullpen. So I like finding a prop to the under that sort of mitigates the impact that the bullpens can have in this game. So under 6.5 runs, first 7 innings. It really just amplifies Max Scherzer and Adam Wainwright. And again, Scherzer has been absolutely incredible. His 11 starts with the Dodgers, an ERA under 2, a FIP also below 2. He has been incredible. And Wainwright, yes, there is a little bit of luck involved here. Obviously, he's not as good as he's pitched the last 4 months, but as I mentioned, he's been so good against right-handed bats. And suddenly when you take Max Muncy out of that lineup, it just is a immediately more favorable matchup for someone like Wainwright. I think he survives this game where Scherzer thrives, and we don't even get close to 7 runs in the first 7 innings of this game.
All right, Matty, what about you, dude? Your favorite bet for tonight's wildcard game in the NL?
Yeah, so I think this game is really priced fairly. Like, I don't really share the same line of thinking on the under, but I do think that there's a lot of variance here. The Dodgers tend to be a team that's pretty reliant on the home run. We also don't know what their starting lineup is going to be because Max Muncy's out. So if they had a really low-scoring night, I wouldn't be shocked. And obviously, if the Cardinals didn't score a lot of runs, I wouldn't be shocked either. But we did see Scherzer have 2 really bad starts in a row to end the regular season. I think this game could go a lot of ways. So I would probably say I don't like anything as far as the standard lines, but I think alternate totals are interesting here. So under 4.5 runs is plus 340. I think that's appealing, but at the same time, you could go over, let's say, 12.5 runs for plus 475. Like, I just think that there's a lot of variance to this game. So I'm not necessarily picking either of those, but I think those are both more interesting than either the regular over or the regular under. Okay,
Matt, maybe there's an interesting player prop that you like?
Oh.
Yeah, I have a much stronger take for player props than for game props for this one. I think Max Scherzer's strikeout line is way too low at 7.5. I think it should be closer to 8.5 or 9. I think he can give up runs, but I think the strikeouts will almost certainly be there. The Cardinals are a team that I think we had talked about a while back on a bunch of different shows as being a team that is really bad against righties. That didn't actually translate the rest of the season. And they weren't striking out that much either against righties or lefties. It's just Scherzer himself, I think, is getting undervalued here because, like I said, his last 2 starts of the year weren't that good. But, I mean, on average, Scherzer is usually getting around 8, 9, or 10 strikeouts. And I think this game's no different. It's a National League game. He gets to face an opposing pitcher. So I don't really have that much confidence in his run prevention, but I do think 7.5 is too low of a line for strikeouts.
All right, Gary, and a player prop that you like.
So the fun thing with these wildcard slates on the DKSB is we get so many props we normally wouldn't get during the MLB regular season, and a couple of those are these pitcher matchup props. And one line that stood out to me as just being ridiculously lopsided is Scherzer versus Wainwright, most walks allowed. Scherzer is a minus 425 favorite here. Adam Wainwright is plus 300 to have fewer walks tonight than Max Scherzer. And look, I think it's not really going out on a limb to suggest that Max Scherzer is probably going to pitch deeper into this game than Adam Wainwright, whether that's because the Dodgers need him to, or whether that's because the Dodgers offense beats up on Adam Wainwright. But that might not mean success in this particular prop. If he's facing 7, 8, 9, 10 more batters than Adam Wainwright, the opportunity for him to rack up walks is there. It's much higher, and it's not as if either of these guys is exactly known for being someone who walks a lot of batters. In fact, if you go back to the beginning of 2020, a span of over 200 innings for both of these pitchers, they have an identical walk rate at 6.0%. I know the Dodgers walk a lot as a team. They walk much more than the Cardinals did this season, but at plus 300, considering Adam Wainwright just faced the Dodgers in September and did not walk a batter across 7 innings, I just don't see why this line is so lopsided in Scherzer's direction.
All right, guys, enjoy the baseball tonight. Thanks for hanging out with us this morning. That is absolutely everything you need to know for tonight's wildcard game. But just in case Gary and Matt missed something, here is Julian and Steve on the Unreasonable Odds podcast with their thoughts.
The Dodgers have the shortest odds of anyone in the postseason to win the World Series, yet are in this wild card game. Giants winning that division, absolutely ridiculous. The Cardinals are red hot. The Dodgers are as good of a team as you could ask for to ever play the Dodgers will probably be the best team ever to play in a wild card game. I'll say that. I don't, as interesting as it is to take the hot team plus 180 on the Cardinals on the road here, I don't think the Dodgers blow this opportunity. They just worked all season to win 106 games. Now you get one at home to make it all count. I don't know how you capitalize on that. I think they do it convincingly, so I don't mind the even money on the run line. And then that's obviously a parlay piece for me. I think they get this. So like we're saying, it's not a teaser week. I really think the Vikings are going to win at home against the Lions. Maybe you do it. You got to wait for your money. Cross sport parlay again. You got to wait for your money for Sunday. But maybe you just parlay the Dodgers and the Vikings, something like that. I'll get around to this. We're gonna post some tweets on the Unreasonable Odds Twitter handle. We're gonna post some short videos maybe with some MLB postseason handicapping. What do you got on this Cardinals-Dodgers game?
I don't see how the Dodgers win this game. Like their biggest trade deadline acquisition was Max Scherzer.
You don't see how the Dodgers win this game?
I don't see how the Cardinals win this game. My mistake. I misspoke there.
Say if you don't see any single scenario of how the Dodgers can win this game, we need to.
I think the Dodgers absolutely win this game. Their big trade deadline acquisition was Max Scherzer. The throw-in was obviously their best hitter in that span, and Trey Turner. Scherzer has absolutely dominated since donning a Dodgers uniform. He's made 11 starts since coming over to the Dodgers. Has allowed a total of 15 runs through 68 in a third innings. Has struck out 89 over that span. That gives him a K9 of 11.7. I mean, he's just absolutely wiped the floor with every single team that he's faced since he's come over to the Dodgers.
All right, it is time to talk some golf because tomorrow, the first round of the Shriners
for children, Shriners Children's Open.
Len, when did they change the name of this tournament? We're confused if Hospitals.
No, it's
is in
not.
The name.
We're not confused. Hospital's not in the name anymore.
Well, even earlier, Reed was like, "What are you guys talking about?" But then he said no because some people still call it the British Open when it's technically the Open. Len Hochberg, RotoWire senior golf writer. What do you call this tournament?
I think it has a new name, and
Great.
I was just as surprised as you all, because when I went to start my research this week, I said, "Wow, they shortened it," which means that I probably don't need as much time as I would have had they not changed the name.
Yeah.
So,
well, they did change the name, and
Okay.
we're just going to go with it.
Well, it
okay?
helps too when you're tweeting about it because it's less characters that you have to use, so you can put more of your thoughts into the tweet.
Okay, so whatever it's called, Koepka is the favorite and highest priced in DFS at 11,100. Are you chasing Brooks this week or fading him to look for value elsewhere, Len?
yeah, Brooks Koepka is always a tough call, at least for me. There's so many variables with him always, whether he's really interested, whether he's healthy. We really don't know either. He is 11-1. He's the top guy on the board. He's had some success at this course, and it's perfectly suited for his game when his game is on. He's finished second here. He's finished fourth here, but then he stopped coming. That was 5 years ago. He's only been back once since, and he missed the cut. So we saw him at the Ryder Cup. He appeared to be okay. He beat Bernd Wiesberger in singles, not to minimize Mr. Wiesberger, but the weakest guy in the Ryder Cup. It was a close match. I think there's just too many unknowns here and too many variables and too many other guys that I like who are just below him. I'm going to fade Brooks Koepka.
Okay, cool. Well, last year at this event, Len, Martin Laird took home the title. That was his second Shriners Open. This year, only $7,100. Any chance you're looking at him for some value?
Probably not. You know, when he won last year, he's actually had a pretty good career. He won 3 times, 2009, 2011, 2013. So he had something going. But then he didn't win again until last year. He went 7 years. He was in the 300s. It was really a pretty surprising playoff win. He's done virtually nothing since then. So I think there are some other opportunities in that 7,000 range. I'm going to pass on Martin Laird as well.
It was a 3-man playoff last year. That's right.
Well, Matthew Wolff came in second last year. He's 8,200 this week. So are you chasing or fading Wolff?
Yeah, you know, the thing about Matthew Wolff, the most important thing is that he's back playing golf. Actually, the most important thing is he says he's happy and in a good space. And that's really paramount more than anything that we're going to talk about here. But we are here to talk about $8,200. And he finished second here. He lost in the playoff with Martin Laird last year. And he really has not done much since then. He went into his golf tailspin soon after. He's had a couple of good results recently, including 17th last week at the Sanderson. I don't quite think he's going to do it for me at $8,200. Fade Matthew Wolff till we see a little bit more.
Okay, we got a good group sitting right behind Koepka here at the top. So you got Hovland, Burns, Answer, Simpson, Zalatoris. All are over 10 grand. I mean, which one of those guys are you fading, though, this week?
Well, there are a couple of guys I'm fading. A few of them I like. Hovland, I'm gonna take a pass on. This tournament, you're gonna need to get to 20 under at least, and probably a few strokes better. I don't know if Victor Hovland can make enough birdies in a setting such as this. I'd much rather play Victor Hovland in a tournament where 9 under or 11 under wins. I'm gonna push aside Sam Burns just because he won last week. It's really hard to do it 2 weeks in a row. That might come back to bite me. I like Abraham Answer a lot. I like Will Zalatoris a lot. They both were top 5 here last year. Webb Simpson plays well here every year, but he has not had a good year. And in fact, I think this could be a litmus test for Webb Simpson. If he doesn't have a good week this week, it should be some concern for the future for him. Answer and Zalatoris at the top of the list that you gave me.
Hey, Len, which value play are you chasing this week?
You know, Hideki in the mid-9s. You wouldn't think that Hideki Matsuyama could make enough birdies the way he putts, but he recently went 64-63 on the weekend at the WGC FedEx, another TPC course, going down to 8,300. Really one of my best values on the whole board, Joaquin Niemann. I don't see how he is so low. He was 13th here last year. He really has a good fit for this course. Just as a comparison, Siwoo Kim is 9,000, who I like this week, but I can't imagine him being $700 better than Joaquin Niemann. Going down the board quickly, Aaron Wise, 7,900. I gave you Aaron Wise last week. He just missed the top 25. I'm going to keep giving you Aaron Wise. I think he's in for a good season. 76, Brian Harmon does well here. Just about every year. 73, Cam Davis. I look for a bounce back from him. And way down, if you're looking for a 6th guy to fill out your lineup who you need to make the cut but don't expect great things, Matt Jones, 6,700, makes a ton of cuts, including here. Same thing for Tom Hoagie. He's done really well here through the years, at least making it through to Saturday.
All right, so it does sound like you like a good chunk of dudes this week. Slate-approved pick, though. So who is your pick to win these Shriners Children's Open?
Yeah, this is a tough one for me. Well, it's always a tough one. 144 guys, pick one, go for it. I like Abraham Answer a lot this week. I like Will Zalatoris a lot this week. This is a perfect course for Will Zalatoris. You can just let it fly off the tee. There's hardly any, the fairways are wide. There's not much rough, but there's not much penalty. You don't have to be a great putter. Will Zalatoris has not been the same guy from last fall and last spring, maybe because the fields got tougher, or maybe you just can't keep it up. But he was 5th here last year. He's actually played pretty well the first 2 weeks of the season. He's top 15s at both tournaments. I think this could be the week that Will Zalatoris finally breaks through and gets his first win.
Okay, thank you, Len. Appreciate it. Coming up next, a little game of high or low. But first, how high or low is Jason Sobel on some of the favorites in the Shriners Children's Open? Let's find out.
Favorites, long shots. Normally, obviously, we need to, converge and bring those two together. So let's get your favorite long shots here for this one. What do you think?
Okay, one stat that I always like looking at is final round ball striking from the previous event for those players who are going back-to-back and playing 2 in a row. And looking at Sunday at the Sanderson Farms, Brendan Steele figured something out with both his driver and his irons. He led the field in strokes gained tee to green, led the field in strokes gained on approach shots, and really it wasn't close between him and the next closest competitor. So I like him to stay hot as he goes into the desert. I think he's going to have a good week. And then speaking of the desert, anytime we get into these conditions, it's Scott Piercy's bread and butter. He has 9 top 25s in 12 career starts in his hometown of Las Vegas. I expect him to have a really good week as well.
Who are you going to fade this time around?
It's a guy we mentioned earlier. I don't have a whole lot of big fades this week. My medium fade is Harris English. Again, played well at the Ryder Cup, didn't play great. It was kind of masked by the fact that his other 11 teammates all played really well. And I get that Harris has had such a good last year and a half or so, playing the best golf of his career, but he's not a guy that I'm looking at this course at this time right now. I think he'll get it back. This isn't a full year Harris English fade, but for this week, yeah, he's not really on my radar.
The Shriner Children's Open. It's all about the kids here, Jason. So you're going to pick a young guy to win this thing? Who's your guy?
Yeah, I'll go with a young guy. In fact, a guy looking for his first career win. You know, Adam, past champions who have won for the first time in Vegas include Tiger Woods, Jim Furyk, Kevin Na, Patrick Cantlay. That's a pretty good list. We've seen other events where there are a lot of first-timers who win, but not necessarily first-timers of those kind of pedigrees. And so I like a guy who's going to win for the first time and keep winning for years to come. No, it's not Will Zalatoris, although I do like him. Scotty Sheffler, again, buoyed by that Ryder Cup success that he had a few weeks ago, beating John Rahm for a second time this year in a singles match. I think Scotty Sheffler is primed to go out and win on the PGA Tour for the first time. He's got a tremendous amount of confidence right now. The ball striking is good. I can see him going really low this week.
I always feel like a winner when I get to chat with Jason Sobel. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks, buddy.
Welcome back to The Sweat. I'm Jessie Coffield. He's Emerson Lotiza, and we are ready for NFL High or Low with our football panel. DraftKings contributors Jeff Orr, Kenny Ducey, and RotoWire's AJ Scholes.
All right, so are these lines and odds too high or too low for Week 5? So Rams in Seattle, this is tomorrow night, Thursday Night Football. You got Cooper Kupp, finally held without a touchdown last week. He's human after all. His receiving yards prop right now at this moment in time is at 85.5. Is that too high or too low, Jeff?
I actually think it's a little bit too high in this spot. I mean, the Rams have already talked a little bit this week about trying to get Robert Woods more involved, and you look at where Seattle has really given it up. Well, their secondary hasn't been great, but particularly they've just given up big plays on the outside. We saw Deebo Samuel just running down the sidelines, free as a bird last week, and you start to wonder, maybe this is the spot where Robert Woods starts to get some of those downfield targets from Matthew Stafford. Again, Cooper Kupp leads the league in targets. We know this. So right off the bat, this total probably does look a little bit too low. But you look at this spot and where the Seahawks have some good players. You know, Quandre Diggs, I expect them to help out a little bit, him to help out a little bit with Cooper Kupp. I think Seattle does everything they can to limit Kupp. And I think this is more of the night when you see Woods probably attack some of these weaker outside corners. So I'm going to say it's a little bit too high. And I think Kupp actually goes under this number.
Kenny, how about you, ma'am?
I love the over here. I think that we are not giving the Seattle Seahawks secondary enough credit for how bad they are. 28th in yards allowed per game. This is the team that's dead last in yards allowed per game in general with a terrible rushing defense. So look, I don't know if the Rams are just going to throw the ball all game long, but I do know that Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods can certainly have 100-yard games both. And I also think that perhaps the Woods thing is a little bit of a smokescreen. Remember, they do like to use Woods sort of in the running game and in these short screen pass situations. Kupp actually is a guy that does get downfield targets. I do think that this Seattle Seahawks secondary is one that I'm willing to attack. The targets are going to be there for Kupp. That means the catches are going to be there. And oh, by the way, I got to mention again how bad Jamal Adams is in coverage. He lost his men last week and was trending on Twitter.
AJ, how about you, dude?
I'm with Kenny on this one. I think it's too low and is a complete overreaction to week 1 here. I mean, you look at Kupp's yardage, 108, 163, 96. Like last week is the one game that he didn't hit this over, or this total rather. And so I would expect him to have another big one. And as Jeff alluded to, like 13 targets last week. I know he only caught 5 of them. So that, maybe that's a little bit of a concern there. But at the end of the day, this guy's still going to get, I would imagine, at least 10 targets, probably more. And I think going over that mark is a breeze for him in this one.
All right, guys, Tampa Bay, 10-point favorite at home against Miami. Is that spread too high or too low in your opinion, Kenny?
Yeah, this is way too high. Look, Miami has a very, very solid defense, and I know that there was rain involved on Sunday night and Bill Belichick made Tom Brady sick or whatever during the week, but the fact remains that this Buccaneers team, we have to remember last season, it wasn't a complete season for them. They got really hot at the end of the year in the last 4 weeks of the year, 4 or 5 weeks, and then had a great postseason. But this is not a team that just was consistently dominating on the offensive end. That, they had some drop issues, again, because of maybe the rain. But I also think that there's a larger story to be told here with the running game. Is it going to work against Miami? A very good front seven. I don't know. The pass rush is going to be better than the pass rush that the Patriots were throwing on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which seemed to give them issues. I think that this defense is good enough to keep this game close. I see a rock fight, and I see a very, very slim margin. And by the way, Jacoby Brissett is not that bad. There's worse quarterbacks out there. I think he's shown a little bit in 2 games that he can actually play.
All right, AJ, way too high for you?
No, I think it's too low. Look, I'm not jumping on the Jacoby Brissett train after just, really one good game here. I think it's, a larger sample size against better teams. He's not necessarily going to hold up. And I think that's why he's never really secured a full-time starter job in any extended stop. So for me, I think Tampa will probably take this one pretty heavily. Look, we talked about the run game. You have to think about the fact, too, that the Buccaneers have only allowed 190 rush yards. That's the lowest in the league. Their defense is actually pretty good against the run. And so if you're going to force Brissett to throw the ball even more, I think it increases your sample size here. And I would expect Tampa to hit the over on this one for sure.
Jeff, one vote for too low, one vote for too high. What do we think?
Yeah, I'm gonna side with the deuce here with old Deucey. This line is look. I don't really want to make a case for Jacoby Brissett being a good quarterback, but there's more to it than that. Like Miami hasn't run the ball against anyone, so I'm not expecting them to run the ball in this game. The problem is on the other side. The Tampa Bay offense hasn't really looked that sharp. Okay, against Atlanta they did, but like they almost lost to Dallas. This is a team that, like traditionally how you beat Miami this year is you run the ball against them. Tampa Bay is averaging well under 4 yards per carry. So then you put the game on the arm of Tom Brady. That sounds fine. But as Kenny alluded to, this is a Miami defense that's really good. They're allowing under 7 yards per pass attempt. This screams close game. And again, you don't really like the way Tampa's defense has played this year either. They're averaging under 2 sacks per game. If Jacoby Brissett runs a little bit, he keeps hitting Mike Gesicki on these short routes. And Tampa Bay's secondary is not good at covering anyone. I think Miami can not only make this game close, I'm going to take it a step further. I think Miami gets the upset today. This week, I should say, in the Battle of Florida. Give me the Dolphins here straight up.
Okay.
Wow.
Love it, Jeff.
No, that's not going to happen. You look like a fool, bro. Stop.
Okay,
I'm not old though, Jeff.
Anywho.
Kenny Deuce.
Yeah, really. Seriously, channeling your inner Kenny Ducey there. Broncos and Steelers, guys, with a total under 40 right now, 39.5 for a total. Is that too high or too low for this game, AJ?
My initial thought was like, that's too low because it's so astronomically low, but I think it's actually still too high. Look, the Steelers are going to be celebrating Halloween early by potentially rolling out the corpse of Ben Roethlisberger, who's completely banged up throughout his entire body. They've already struggled to score this season with just 7 TDs on the year. The Broncos haven't fared much better. They have a total of 8 TDs and have relied entirely, in my opinion, on their defense to get the 3-1 here. So a good defensive team that doesn't have a lot of offense against the bride of Frankenstein here. I wouldn't be banking on too much offense in this one.
I just had to contain myself. The corpse of Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, I know, dude. Yeah, that's a big corpse, though. Jeff, what do you think, man? Is this total too high or too low?
I'm thinking I have my Halloween costume figured out now. That's great. Thanks, AJ. Yeah, this total is definitely telling us something. It's begging us to take the over. And when totals get this low and they want us to take the over, honestly, the play is usually to take the under. Both of these teams are 0-4 at hitting overs this year. The Steelers offense still banged up. Like, is Chase Claypool going to be back? Deontay Johnson's going to be out there, but is it going to matter against this elite secondary? I see Denver getting up a score in this game and then just playing it tight. Pittsburgh's defense might be the liability that gets us to the over because they haven't really brought that much pressure. They weren't even able to get pressure against the bad O-line in Cincy. And, are they going to be able to bring pressure now against Denver? So I don't know. I mean, Drew Lock being in there, does that give the Broncos offense a little spark? I'm on the under here. This is all just me bounding about the issue. It's a low total, but I would much rather be on the under with these two teams. I think Denver gets up a score and just pounds out the ball and probably wins by 10 points.
Yeah, Kenny, Bridgewater's status up in the air. Steelers offense hasn't cracked 20 points since week 1. It feels like an under. Is that where you're going?
Yeah, the under's 4-0 in the Broncos' first 4 games, and I am looking at the under here. And now, look, I think that the Steelers' defense probably comes back and steps up in a big way in this one. And I'm still not really sold on Teddy Bridgewater or this Broncos offense. So I kind of think that the Steelers' defense has some success here. And then AJ, I loved your joke. I love Big Corpse. I think Big Corpse is going to throw a few picks here. We're going to see both of these teams turning the ball over left and right to each other. No one's going to want to score. I think that this is the definition of a rock fight here between these two teams. I don't care who's starting at quarterback. I actually do kind of side with Jeff that Drew Lock could maybe breathe a little bit of life into this offense, but I'm still definitely taking the under. I think this should be two teams trying to run the ball, fumbling and throwing interceptions everywhere. I think that both defenses should have a good game.
All right, guys, before we wrap it up, just real quick, happy birthday to Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is 22 today.
I don't know about you.
Oh, the biggest news in Jaguars land.
22 going on 42 with everything that's going on.
Yeah, right? Hopefully they get him an offensive
Poor
line.
guy, his least happy birthday. That's it
Emerson,
for
I'm with you.
football. Yeah, that's it for football.
Thanks, Kenny.
One more block to go here on the Sweat. We are talking NBA preseason. Can you believe it? We'll be right back.
All right, we got about a handful of minutes to go. We're going to talk some NBA preseason salaries. RotoWire's Nick Whalen, thanks for being here and helping us out, man.
Yeah, need your favorite DFS plays in each price range for tonight's preseason slate. Start with a guard over 7K. Where are you going, Nick?
Man, ton of options on the slate tonight. We have 7 preseason games. If you want to pay up, Donovan Mitchell, 8,700. He did struggle in Monday night's opener, but he took 19 shots in 22 minutes. So you want a guy who's going to give you some high volume. I think there's an option there. Tyrese Halliburton, 8,100, played 24 minutes, pretty much the entire first half in the Kings opener on Monday. All-around producer. We know what Tyrese Halliburton brings. And if you want to go a little bit under 7K, you can get Nickeil Alexander-Walker at 6,200. He did come off the bench on Monday. Wouldn't be surprised if he starts this game as the Pelicans try out a few other options. But 22 points, 3 assists, 2 steals in that game on Monday.
All right, how about a big man over 7K?
Pretty limited options if you're talking about centers. Nikola Jokic is expected to play tonight. He's at 9,400. Although that hefty price tag doesn't really cost you as much in the preseason based on how the pricing breaks down. So he is a reasonable play. I like Rashawn Holmes at 8,400. I like John Collins at 7,800. Almost had a double-double in barely 20 minutes in their opener. And then Isaiah Stewart, who led all rookies in blocks and rebounds last season. He's expected to play for Detroit tonight. You can get your hands on him at 7,600.
All right, how about a guard under 5K?
I love that you guys, not that you two are in charge of how these players are listed, but
we are.
Nashan Highland is listed as Bones Highland on DraftKings. He's at 4,300, had 19 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, and a block in the Nuggets opener on Monday. Played a team-high 24 minutes. So if I'm looking for one guard under 5K, I'm going back to Bones Highland.
Forward or center under 5K?
I'm going to cheat this one a little bit because there aren't a ton of options under that price point. There's a lot of guys in like the 5 to 7K range, but at 5,300, you can get rookie Trey Murphy from New Orleans. He had an excellent summer league, looked really Monday's opener as well, had 21 points, 6 boards, 6 3-pointers, and most importantly, he played a team-high 30 minutes. Willie Green has hinted that Trey Murphy might end up starting for this team. He looks like he might be a steal in the middle of the first round.
All right, real quick, bonus checkout aisle item. Which money line tonight has a price so right you just can't pass it up?
Again, so many options to choose from with these preseason money lines. I'll throw out the Spurs in Detroit. I think San Antonio is going to play a lot of regulars again tonight. I think Detroit might struggle a little bit. They have some injuries, including Cade Cunningham. And if you're looking for an underdog, the Kings plus 120 to beat the LA Clippers. This is kind of a carryover from a great summer league team that the Kings fielded. We saw a lot of De'Aaron Fox, a lot of their starters in the opener. I like the Kings to take down the Clips tonight.
All right, man. That's it, brother. Good stuff. Thanks for hanging with us.
All right.
All right, man. Yeah, NBA season just getting started, so this is only the beginning for you here.
Just the start.
All right.
That's
you
a
and
show.
I are done. That is a show. If you guys have more NFL questions or would like to know more about that, what's cooking ahead of Thursday Night Football and the Week 5 Sunday slate, also for golf ahead of the Shriners Children's Open tomorrow. I'll be on the slate tonight with Reed T. Fowler and Jeff Ulrich, our gorgeous golf gurus. I'm very excited for that.
Okay, but we got Madden coming up in a little bit, starting at noon. Enjoy that, and then we'll be back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. See you then.
Peace.